Hello, my friends, and happy Sunday. We are going to go over the story of creation today. This is Genesis 1 through 2:4, so a pretty long one, but it's full of amazing, super beautiful details. And it tells us how our whole world and universe were formed. Ready to get started? Let's jump on in. In the beginning, there was nothing. And then God said, "Let there be light." And there was. Now we could see the infinite space. And it scattered all the dark away. Next, God made planets. He made the earth and the sky, or planets with an atmosphere around them. But then that was it. And that was the end of the second day. So on the third day, God organized the earth from being just a big swirly blob into land and water. So we had seas, we had oceans, and then when it was all separated, he was able to cover the ground in plants. So he had little bitty plants, he had grasses, he had flowers, he had trees, and he covered all the grounds in them. Next, he organized the heavens. He separated daytime to only take part of the day and nighttime to do the other half. Once he had them separated, he felt like the night was too dark. So he added twinkling stars, and during the day we have the bright, beautiful sun. It gives us a lot of beautiful sparkling, doesn't it? So we're never totally in the dark. Next, he filled the empty seas with all manners of fish. Really, really big ones and really, really tiny ones. He filled up the oceans with the biggest fish he could make. And he filled up the lakes with the smallest fishes he could make. And then he turned to the skies and he filled them up as well. And they teemed with life. They flew all over the place. And last, he made animals, mammals and reptiles, bugs and beasts, huge behemoths and tiny, tiny creatures. He covered the world in them. And very last, he created humans. He made mankind to watch over this earth, to love it, protect it, and care for it. He wanted someone to enjoy it as well as do hard work to take care of it. And on the very last day, he rested. Which is why on Sundays we spend the day resting in God's love. The end. So before we jump into our craft, let's pray together. Dear God, your creation is so wonderful. We are in awe and amazement at all of those things which you have created. We do not understand how you created all of these things, not why. We have no idea how to explain so many of them. But we are glad that we get to experience them and glad that we were part of your plan. Amen. So, our craft today is we're going to make pop-up books. Now, Bobo and I tested this a few times and we made a space one. Would you like to show our space book? Should we make another one?
Yeah,
So I'll show you this one
Baby in it.
with a baby in it. You can do a lot of really neat ideas with paper cutting and all sorts of layering and coloring. This is the new one. Bubba just woke up from her nap. So for the Genesis story, for the first day, I wanted it to be pretty empty because there was only the light. For the second day, it was still pretty empty, just the earth and the skies. For the third day, we started to get the plants, so I started doodling it too. For the fourth day, oh my goodness, everything was alive and shining and bright.
Yeah, too sun.
Well, that's not to scale. Yeah. And the fifth day, I wanted to show all the great details with all the different aquatic animals and everything up in the sky. I thought it was so beautiful. I love the water. One of the most important parts to me about this story.
I love to jump in that space water.
You want to jump into space water? Don't think else. Was that this earth was given to us to love and appreciate and enjoy and protect. We're supposed to take care of it as much as we love it. I feel like that's a big part of loving. I want everyone to be holding hands and holding the earth. And just all holding love. And it was that idea of love that I wanted to represent today.
Mom, is that love Grammy?
It is love like Grammy, but this is a love like God's love over all the days.
Yeah.
So for this, you will need construction or craft paper. The white paper I have worked okay, and that was just regular printer paper. And you need either stick or PVA glue. And some of your optional things you could do are scissors for cutting or tearing. So, like this one, I wanted to try out the tearing method. So I tore those edges, and I thought they looked pretty neat. You can do glitter or stickers, crayons or markers. You can really do whatever inside of it you want. And next, I will show you all of the instructions of how to do our special hiding pop-up. To start, we're going to fold our papers in half the way you would with a book. From there, you're going to make 2 slits the same length and fold a little tab. When you fold back and forth, you can crease it and it will pop inside. And that little table is what our pop-ups are going to sit on top of. Right now I'm making some little extras that will go on the pop-ups itself. So that little table is where I am going to put "Let There Be Light" for day 1. So I'm just writing it out now, and then I will cut it out and glue it. You want to be sure that you are adding something that will be completely covered by the book and yet not come off of the little table that we put it on. So I am darkening my lines to make sure that it really pops well. Then I'll use my paper cutter to cut off the extra bit of paper so I can keep reusing the smaller pieces. And then I will cut the whole thing out, kind of a bubble style around it. If you have lots of words to say, you can write some of them onto the pages themselves and put the words that you want to pop out onto the little pop-up table. For this page, I really wanted it to reflect the fact that there was nothing before. God added light into the darkness. Now I am taking a little break and I'm making some stars for one of the other days where God makes the actual stars and the moons, as I'm kind of thinking through everything and waiting for the the letters themselves to dry. So I put on a little bit of PVA glue, set it aside to dry, and start on my next page. You can see here I folded it just the same way, and I put it at the little pop-up table right in the middle, just like the other one. I like working on the pages separately because it's easier to get the different elements to dry. Now I'm showing you that I'm making circles. So the first circle I just drew freehand, and I thought it was pretty good. But then I thought I would show you that you can also trace around any objects that can make a shape that you like as well. So I use my glue bottle and a pop can, and you can even use things like plant pots to make all different circles of all different sizes. So day 2 showed us that we got earth and we got sky. So even though I drew a circle for the atmosphere or sky, I ended up tearing it instead of cutting it because I wanted it to have a loose, natural. You can totally do a mixture of cutting and tearing, or pick one or the other that you prefer. For the space book that I showed as my other example, we just did cutting and layering with a couple drawn accents. This book I used a lot more methods, and I like the way that tearing and cutting compared. Now I am doing another circle. For day 3, our planet is no longer a swirly twirly blob, but separated into land and water. So I drew on a rough globe idea, and now I'm taking my color pencil sticks and coloring it all in. I gotta say, it's been a long time since I focused on coloring quite this much, but I had so much fun doing it. I really like the way that it changed it up, and it added some beautiful color. If I have more colors of construction paper, it could be fun to do a collage out of them as well. Now I chose a yellow paper so that it can show that the earth was in the light. I plan out where I want my flowers and other plants to be. On day 3, when God made the land and water, he also added plants. So I wanted them to really pop up off. So you see here, I'll adjust a little and make sure that it's totally on the table. Then I pop it again and let it lay down flat. Now I'm moving on to day and night, and this one is a fun way to layer paper. I went back and forth on how to do this one. So first, I am just cutting in half a piece of paper and laying over there so it splits. Once those two halves, well, the half and the whole, dry, then I can actually start cutting the insets out the same way we've done all the other ones. So now I'm adding some little stars with my colored sticks as we wait for them to dry. And I'm going to take some of that same glue and put some sparkles in the sky. My glue is how we do glitter at my house. I mix the glitter straight into the glue and keep it in a container. It works perfectly for pasting as well as for adding some extra sparkles. It's going to take a little bit longer to dry, so I set it aside and make extra circles. Two of the circles, the sun and the moon, I glued straight down onto the paper. It gives them a slightly texturized look, especially if you add details with pencils or markers underneath. The earth is what I put on top. Next I am cutting out waves. And I wasn't actually sure what I was doing here. I was kind of just making it up as I went along. But I was thinking about how in plays, they would often have water designs made out of wood cutouts that would be moved either by people or on sticks. I decided to try making little pockets for the fish and then some clouds swirling in the sky for the birds themselves so that I wouldn't have to be working on too many things. I only drew on the birds. So now it's time to draw. Once it's dry, you can add your little tabs. I found where I wanted them to be within the waves and actually did 2 near the ends. Make sure you don't cut off the edges, and then you can actually do multiple. On the green piece, I decided to make a little cushion to hold the earth up off of it a little bit instead of doing a pop-up. That way, when I opened up the page for God's love, the 3 pedestals of their different sizes would really pop. And now it's time to glue. You get all your pages in the correct order, and one at a time, add some glue to each level so that the glue won't leak out and prevent the pop-up or the book from opening. And slowly add the pieces. On the ones with a lot of pop-outs, it can be kind of tricky. Then I plan out a cover for the edge. It acts almost like a binding. I want to see how far over I need it to be, and then I give a tiny gap. I cut it out, and once the pages inside have fully dried, I cut out my good copy that's not all marked up, but does still have a long fold in it, and I glue it to the cover. So here you see there is a teensy tiny gap that'll just make it a little bit easier for the pages. And that's it. Now you have a book and you can make more and more and more and more and more. I love you so much. Bye-bye.